Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're having an unusually rainy June morning in Grass Valley, which is kind of nice. So I want to welcome everybody who's joining us on Facebook, YouTube, Zoom, and here in the room. And we're going to get started right off with our first two community songs. Here we go.
In your eyes, we I see.
There we go. Good morning and welcome again to anyone who has joined us while we were singing on YouTube, Zoom, and Facebook, and here in the room. My name is Reverend Rafe Ellis, and I am honored and privileged to be the senior minister here at Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. And one of the pleasures I get to do is remind us of who we are and what we're about. We are a radically inclusive, spiritually progressive, supportive community that celebrates the very diversity of creation. We strive to live authentic spiritual lives through a practical application of the teachings of science of mind. We engage in sacred practices that uplift our spirit, deepen our awareness, and ignite our soul's self-expression. We demonstrate active compassion to ourselves, each other, and the world. We experience meaningful contribution through giving generously of our time, talents, and treasures, and we intentionally promote our community in these teachings. And one of the things that we do every Sunday morning to give action to our commitment to inclusion is our inclusion candle lighting ritual. And so I've asked Jill Wiggins to join me. Let me get her fired up here. There you are. And we light these candles to celebrate the unity of all peoples, all faiths, all beings, all life. We light the first candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples. We light the second candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the third candle for Taoism, honoring the path of ultimate reality, the natural way. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the middle way and path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the teachings of Jesus as the path of love, forgiveness, and healing by the presence within. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the ninth candle for all forms of New Thought teachings, honoring the metaphysical path of living, of mental healing, through the practice of universal spiritual principles of love and law. We light the 10th candle for absolute inclusivity, affirming that all are welcome and celebrated here. And we light this final candle, honoring the infinity of oneness as all creation, seen and unseen. And so now I'm going to turn it back over to our musicians for our next community song, The Breath of God.
Breath of God, I know that all
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we have some announcements. We are here, we are live, we are alive, we are in person as well as virtually. And if you choose to come in person, we have a bead system so that you can communicate your comfort zone to other folks. If you still want folks to stay 6 feet away from you and not hug you and not touch you, you can wear a red strand of beads, and that just simply communicates that. If you're figuring it out one person at a time and you're just not sure, you can wear a yellow strand of beads, and that lets us know to have a conversation with you, to check in with you before we touch you or approach you too closely. And if you're good with hugs and handshakes and close proximity conversations, you can wear a green strand. This has been working quite well. We also have some seat savers. If you want to establish a comfort zone, you can grab a couple of seat savers, place one on either side of you, and that just lets folks know not to sit right next to you. So Walking with the Rev has been canceled for the month of June. We will start back up in July from 9 to 10 throughout the summer. And why was it canceled? Because we're moving. And so if you have some spare time and have the ability to pack and move boxes and furniture, we got all the big, it's safe to help now because all the big stuff has been moved. We finally tackled the monster couch with electric recliners at either end, and so it's safe to come out and play now. So if you have time and you're willing and available, just shoot me a text or give me a call or an email. Phone number is 916-390-7036, or you can email me at revrafe@sierracenter.org. And because it's an unplanned move, there is no actual schedule. So just let me know when you're available, and I'll do what I can to work that into the schedule that is unfolding minute to minute. We have some crossword puzzles, a fun way to learn science of mind. And so if that is something that calls to you, they're done using the glossary in A Science of Mind, A Philosophy of Faith, A Way of Life, which actually functions more like Cliff Notes than a glossary. And so you're welcome to purchase those. There's 45 in all. There are 22 that were done by each letter of the alphabet, and then there are 23 that are randomized. If you check out our website, you can see all the pricing and how to order those. If you are live streaming from another community and you purchase these, let us know what community you are from, and we will tie 10% of your purchase back to your community, so we're also participating in the law of circulation. First Friday fun. This coming First Friday, July 1st, our very own board president, Marilyn Gale, will be doing an interactive presentation of music. So I encourage you to come. We ask for a donation because it is part of how we raise funds for the center, because we still haven't convinced PG&E and the city water department and all those folks to donate their services, so we still have some things we have to pay for. I think that's it for the announcements. So this is our time of inward shift. It's a time where we look at one of our community values. And this morning, we're looking at the community value of service. And service can be a lot of things. There was a situation that I was not directly involved in, but I got to learn about, where someone was traveling through Grass Valley, and they noticed an individual down on the sidewalk. And people are just zipping by like it's not happening, and they stopped, and it was an elderly gentleman who had fallen and busted his head open, and he happened to have Parkinson's, and this person actually stopped and was in service to this other human being. And what was really interesting to me is that when they stopped, now other people started stopping. And isn't it interesting that we wait for someone else to initiate being in service before we be of service? And so what I would encourage you to think about this morning is, are you waiting for someone else to initiate being in service, or are you willing to listen to the call within you to be in service? And there's lots of ways to do that, but just service to one another as humanity. It can be the simplest of things. So we're going to do ring the bell 3 times, the bowl, and 3 ohms into a time of meditation. I will bring us out of the meditation with our opening affirmative prayer, also known as spiritual mind treatment, and then lead us in reading our affirmation. one substance, one source, one love, one intelligence, one peace, one power, one presence, creating out of itself, by itself, to expand its experience of itself. I am that in form, fully infused with it, made out of it, to awaken to being it in this physical form. And what is true of me is true of all life, all made out of the same substance, all must contain, be surrounded by, and in fact be it in form. And so knowing this to be true, I speak my word this morning, claiming and affirming that the only thing present here in this room, in this space, virtually, not bound by time and space, is the divine. This is a time of the infinite experiencing the infinite. This is a time of the infinite expanding its experience of itself. And so I know that everything that needs to be heard is heard. Everything that needs to be said is said. That the divine itself is speaking. That the divine itself is praying. That the divine itself is listening. It was in the form of this building when I arrived. It is all there is. And so I celebrate. I celebrate knowing the perfect unfolding of this service. I celebrate knowing the perfect unfolding for each individualized expression of the infinite that is joined to get what they came here to get. And I know that absolutely nothing is available to stand in the way of that fulfillment. And so I simply surrender. I surrender to being used as that hollow bone, as that channel, as that vehicle, as that vessel. I open to listening as I speak. I open to speaking words that may even surprise me. So I let go, knowing that it's already done in the mind of the infinite, in the consciousness of the absolute. There's nothing more to do than to let go and step into the divine, into God, into love, being love. And so I do. I invite you to join me as we anchor this together by saying, and so it is. So I'm going to read our affirmation through once and then invite you to read it with me. I delight in the wonder of my body and treat it kindly. Let's say that together. I delight in the wonder of my body and treat it kindly. And so it is.
If I need to appear to a room more, this is a song by Marcy Bahu. If that's how you say her name.
Let's take a breath together. So, unless you have been under a very large rock for quite a while, you may be aware that June is Pride Month. My prayer is that someday we don't need a Pride Month. My prayer is that someday we don't need a Black History Month. My prayer is that someday we wake up and celebrate the magnificent individualization of the divine in all of its diverse, magnificent forms every day. Every day. Now that requires us to do a little bit of work. A bit. This morning's talk title is Loving This Body. And I suspect that most of us will hear that in complete and total separation. That we will hear that phrase, loving this body, to mean this body, this one, completely separate from that one and that one. And perhaps there is no separation. Perhaps we made that up so we didn't have to actually figure out how to live what appears to be too challenging to live. This idea of oneness. This idea that the micro is no different than the macro. Right? Biology teaches us that it is. Right? We have the quantum field, and we have everything in the physical realm created out of it. One identical substance that differentiates itself into different forms and different functions. And if you know about the biology of this human organism, it's exactly the same. One tiny little ball of identical cells. Your body started out as identical cells. And at some magical, mystical moment, which science in all of its brilliance still can't explain, that ball of identical cells suddenly knows to differentiate. And some of those identical cells change to become liver, and some change to become the heart, and some change to become arms, and some change to become legs. But they all started out exactly the same. Exactly the same. The micro is the same as the macro. And so if we understand that and start wrapping ourselves around that concept, we at least open the door to begin to understand that the spiritual and the physical are not separate. They're not separate. And so when we talk about loving this body, it's important for us to pay attention to what this means in our belief system. Are we talking about this body, the infinite body, or am I talking about this body, the individualized body? Both are important. Both are necessary. And how many of us can actually say 100% that we absolutely, no holes barred, love our physical bodies? Love every wrinkle, every nook and cranny, because I don't know about you, but the older I get, the more mine starts looking like a waffle. It's got more nooks and crannies now than it's ever had. And I suspect that's going to continue. Right? It's going to continue because that's what physical bodies do. And what if we lean into loving the evolution of the physical as our body? What if we stop buying into the commercialization of your magnificence, the commercialization of your beauty, and you threw all those standards out, and you just dared to stand butt naked in front of a mirror and look at every inch of you and say out loud, I love you. Not, I love you. I love you. I love you. But to actually fall in love with this vehicle that is the divine expressing as you. I know in my audience here, there may be some of you younger out there that haven't experienced this yet. But you notice the older you get, the more verbal getting up and down becomes. Yeah, getting up and down used to be a silent process. It's become quite audible. Deborah and I laugh because we can hear each other getting up and down from the other room now. And it's like, oh, one of us is moving. Right? It's just part of the process. And it simply means we are going through a very normal, predictable, necessary human development phase. That's it. It's only when we vilify it that we get challenged by the wrongness of it. And how does that happen? Oh my God, we're conditioned generationally that there is a standard of beauty and none of us meet it. Because that's the whole reason for the standard of beauty, is so you can't attain it, so you need to purchase goods and services that help you attain it. It has nothing to do with you and everything to do with an economic structure that is designed to benefit the people in charge of that structure. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm saying it's a thing. And it's a thing that I don't have to participate in. And it's a thing I can participate in if I choose. I certainly went and got a haircut. I looked in the mirror and I scared myself. I was like, ooh, dude, you need to do something. Right? But I didn't get a $150 haircut by a well-known stylist so that I could walk around and name drop about who cut my hair. Some of us do that. That's okay. If you have the resources and that's what gives your life meaning, go for it. I'm simply suggesting there's something more. There's something more. This month, there have been more anti-gay protests in 2022 than there have been in the last 10 years. See, something's happening. The closer we get to actually breaking down the walls of hatred and supremacy, the more they rise up to reestablish themselves. The more they rise up. State of Florida just outlawed talking about sexual orientation and gender identity in the school system. And Texas is considering the same legislation. Now, I could almost get next to that if they promised me they weren't going to talk about being heterosexual either. See, if you weren't going to talk about marriage, period, so nobody knows who's anybody's marrying, that's great. We're just going to not talk about human development in school anymore. Okay. But if you're going to take out part of it, take out all of it. Otherwise, it's a smoke screen for bigotry. And it's not even a good smoke screen. Because anybody that's actually slightly, sort of, kind of on the fringes paying attention gets it. It's not about, on the surface, there is an activity of oppression, but it's not really about oppressing anybody if you understand how all of this works. It's about elevating what is losing its footing. It's not about oppressing gay people. It's not about oppressing transgender people. It's about elevating the supremacy of heterosexual. It's about elevating the supremacy of cisgender identity because it's losing its footing. And what if we understood that your identity as a cisgender human being has never been threatened by my identity as a transgender man? Because if my identity can threaten yours, your situation is already well worse. Hey? It's the same argument when we were legislating same-gender loving marriage. If two women marrying each other threatens a heterosexual marriage, your marriage was really broken already. If anybody's marriage, unless they're marrying your spouse, threatens your marriage is already messed up. I'm just saying. It's like, I'm a dog lover. Juanita has cats. So Juanita gets a new cat, and somehow that threatens my dog ownership. Really? They ain't in the same house? They don't even know about each other. But that's the kind of mentality that we're dealing with. And it's a depth of fear. It is a depth of hatred. Imagine how much self-hate fuels an insecurity that buys into someone else's identity can threaten yours. To me, that's the saddest part of this. And I think when we understand the spirituality of it, we can shift that. In the June Science of Mind magazine, Reverend Dr. David Alt does the daily writings for this month. And he writes, Ram Dass said, just because you are seeing divine light, experiencing waves of bliss, or conversing with gods and goddesses is no reason to not know your own zip code. Right? And what he's talking about is being fully human and fully spiritual. Know your zip code. Know who you are. Does it matter what somebody else's zip code is? Does it? Doesn't change your house. Doesn't change your electric bill. Right? We evolve by being involved. And since evolution knows no finish line, our involvement in the amalgams of spirituality and humanity are continuously before us to blend our devotion and action. Thomas Troward wrote, and I love this, the error of the extreme idealist is in endeavoring to realize the absolute without the relative. And the error of the extreme materialist is endeavoring to realize the relative without the absolute. And what he's calling us to know there is that we are both and. This idea where we deny our humanity thinking it makes us more spiritual, ain't a word of truth in it, stop it. If this thing, whatever this is that creates out of itself infinite intelligence, I'm pretty sure it's intelligent enough to create whatever it wants. And so if it wanted something other than humans, we wouldn't be here. We'd be something else. And so perhaps our humanity, perhaps our bodies are an act of love, deserving of love. Perhaps. And perhaps we stop separating the physical from the spiritual and understand that the physical is the spiritual in form and that the physical journey is a journey of the spiritual, remembering who it is. Perhaps. And if we do that, I think self-love becomes really, really simple. I've been working with a song for most of my life. It was a song sung by Whitney Houston, "The Greatest Love of All." And the lyrics to this can be heard as separation. They can be heard as egotistical, or they can be heard as spiritual. And so I invite you to understand the self in these lyrics as your divine self and your human self. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here's the pieces that really grab. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. And so I learned to depend on me. Does that mean to depend on me in the absence of you? No. The depend on me when I experience this song is the divine me, which is never separate from the divine you. So what if we learn to depend on that divine voice that is never in doubt about who it is? Never in doubt. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. Who cares what somebody else's idea of you is? Do you know what the divine idea of you is? If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. Now here's the good news and the bad news. You're already doing that. You are absolutely living as you believe. And so if what you're living isn't showing up the way you want it, we have a solution for that. Change your thinking, change your life. Because your life is evidence of what you believe, period. I wish I could make that different for my own life lots of times, because sometimes I don't like what's showing up. And it's no fun to have the awareness that, oh, there's my beliefs right there. Yuck. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. No matter what the world's opinion of you is, if you know who you are, if you fall in love with you, you don't care what they think. You probably won't even notice. You might hear some static. Change the channel. Clear up the static. But you're going to be so in love with you, it's not going to matter what other people think. And ultimately, they can't take anything away from you that you don't give them. It's just that simple. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Let's take this into prayer. My heart smiles as I recognize, as I recognize, as I know again the love, the life, the peace, the presence, the power, the intelligence that God is. That there is only one life. That there is only one peace. That there is only one power, one presence. And it is manifesting itself in the form of all life. One love expressing everywhere in multiplicity. And so I speak my word, reaffirming, committing again to simply love, to fall in love with the divine in all of its diverse, magnificent forms. To know that no matter who I'm looking at, it is love experiencing love. It is life experiencing life. It is God experiencing God. And I allow myself to experience that, to feel that, to feel the humanity and the divinity inseparably interlocked as one. My heart bursts open at the mere acknowledgement, at the mere recognition. And so I open myself to a life that is a lived experience of love for this individualized body and love for the collective body, the one body, never separate. I say yes to celebrating every form of life with every breath. No longer willing to polarize. No longer willing to be fooled by behavior. I recommit myself to see beyond the behavior to the truth of being. Knowing that love, of all the powers, love is the greatest. And love is healing every idea of separation. I celebrate it. I trust it. I know that just as quickly as it is spoken, the activity of law, the activity of creation begins to act upon it. And I no longer need to see it in this human lifetime to know that it's done. It's done. And so I live as if it is done each moment and allow it to be done in me. And I invite you, if you're ready to surrender all of the things that make you separate and celebrate all that make you different, yet one, that you join me in committing yourself to being the love that you are. And join me as we anchor this together by saying, and so it is. Let's take a breath. How many of you heard Whitney singing in the background? That's evidence that we're all conditioned. Ain't a bad thing, it's a thing. So this is our time of giving. And I want to speak to this for just a second because I had one of those moments earlier this week in a conversation that prosperity ain't just about money. Okay? It ain't just about money. And we say every Sunday morning, and we're going to say it here in just a second, divine love blesses and prospers all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And if all you have is anger, and if all you give is anger, and if all you receive is anger, guess what's being blessed and prospered? Anger. Right? So when you say this prosperity affirmation internally, imagine what you want to be prospering. And if you're not embodying that, make the shift. If I can help you make that shift, you know how to contact me. Let's get to work on this stuff. Because whatever you're holding is what is being prospered. Is that really what you want more of? And right now, to be totally transparent, what we want more of is cash. Because we have bills to pay. And our giving is down significantly through COVID. And so I'm just simply going to ask you to give as you have been given to. Let's say our affirmation together. Here we go. I give this gift with love and joy. From a consciousness of abundance, divine love blesses and prospers all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. And so I simply speak a word of blessing, a word of gratitude for the divine in the form of money, for the sustainment, for the growth of Sierra Center for Spiritual Living, and for our 12 nonprofit partners that we give through Sierra Center to sustain the good work that they're doing in the world. And so it is. Okay. Thank you, Miss Hillary, for running our PowerPoint this morning. Thank you, Juanita, for running our live stream and for singing. Thank you, Judy, for being our greeter. Thank you, Kate and Jill and Carl for the flowers. Thank you, Jeff, Don, and Julie for music. Thank you, Reverend Madeline and Reverend Lanny, for holding the fort down while I took 2 very bizarre weeks of vacation to move. It was a new experience, and I'm grateful I had the time. And thank you for joining us. And I invite you to spread the word that we're here. And I know we can pack this place out because we did it for Reverend Julia's installation. So now we just have to get back to doing that. And I will share this. I get it. Most folks I've talked to have talked about, I'm just out of the habit and it's so easy to just stay home. And there's a whole belief system that in order to get folks back in here, back in actual community, we need to stop live streaming. I don't subscribe to that, and I'm not going to do that because there are some people that have no place to go. And so we want to continue to offer all of it. And I think it will work when we decide it's going to work. And that's just that simple. Science of Mind magazine is available. We had 10 copies. We've sold a couple. But we have them here. They are available for purchase. Juanita can help you with that. They're $5. That includes the regular price plus tax because we do have to pay tax on material things that we sell. They're available. We also have a slip for conscious communication. If there's something you want to communicate to me, these just come to me. They go in that little lockbox over there. We also have prayer request forms. If there's something that you would like us to hold in prayer with you, we are happy to do that. We are a praying community. I think that's it. Did I forget anything? Okay, that's scary. I came back and I didn't forget anything. Ooh. It just might be working. All right, so I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to invite you, if you're in the room, to stand. If you're watching us online, stand. Make your body move. If you're driving, please don't stand. And let's say our benediction together. Something wonderful is happening as me right now. It is this thing called divinity. It is this thing called humanity. It is this thing called love. I know it. I feel it. I sense it because I am it. And so it is. Sing us out, musicians.
What I'm here for, I wonder, what am I in this world to do? What I'm here for is one thing I know is to hear. I live for spirit I am, I live for spirit I am, oh, I live for spirit I live for spirit I am, oh, I live for spirit I live for spirit I am, oh, I live for spirit I live for spirit I am, oh, I live for spirit I am, I live for spirit I am, oh, I live for spirit I am, I live for spirit I am.